welcome to episode 8 of Songs of Degrees. Today we're going to be looking at Psalm 122, verse 2 to 4, and this will be called an oasis in the wilderness. Psalm 122, verse 2 to 4. Our feet shall stand within thy gates, O Jerusalem. Jerusalem is built as a city that is compact together, where the tribes go up, the tribes of the Lord, to the testimony of Israel, to give thanks to the name of the Lord. So we're going to look at here some of the big ideas in these three verses. First of all, it's kind of hard to give a good definition for what Jerusalem is without being called a heretic. But there's a lot of usages of the word Jerusalem in the Bible. We often have to just decide it by its context. And I'm going to use this generically in this context for a devotional purpose. We're going to look at Jerusalem as a gathering place of the people of God. So the first thing he says, our feet shall stand within your gates, O Jerusalem. You can kind of get this sense that his desire, his goal, his passion, our passion as the people of God should be to be gathered in the place where God's people gather. That's the idea you kind of get. As we walk through this world, that really is our only solace. It's our only place of comfort. I actually want to look at a verse of a hymn in the Believer's Hymn Book. It says, "This world is a wilderness wide. I've nothing to seek or to choose. I've no thought in the waste to abide. I have naught to regret or to lose." There's actually one other one that kind of summed this idea up. This says, "This world of care is a wilderness state. Here no rest, here is no rest. But I must bear from the world all its hate. Yet I am blessed, I am blessed. Soon shall I be from the wicked released. Soon shall the weary forever be blessed. Soon shall I lean upon Jesus' breast. There is rest, there is rest." So the ideal, now this may not be true for every single gathering place, but the idea is that when we meet together as the people of God, we're called out of this world that we're living in, and we come together to this place that's to remind us of the direction we're headed, of our destination, and it's to remind us that we are not alone. There is a place where Jesus is honored the way he deserves to be, and he is recognized as Lord in his church among his people today. Although the world does not recognize it, one day they will, and one day every knee will bow to him. When we gather as a church, it reminds us that this world is temporary. All of these things it's like a small picture of heaven, where Jesus gets his rightful place and where we enjoy him and we worship him and our minds are set on him, away from the world, away from the problems and the cares of this life. And the second thing we're going to look at quickly here, he says, Jerusalem is built as a city that is compact together. This, to me, it's speaking about unity. And a unity, the idea here is that we are a body. We shouldn't be able to help but to feel what other people in the body are feeling. In the local church, we're to weep with those that weep. We're to rejoice with those that rejoice. We are one body with many members, and we're all necessary for the building up of the body. And Charles Spurgeon, he said about local churches, he said, "Strife and contention are not attractive forces." Another thing about unity is the enemy has a much harder time attacking us when we are together. That's the idea. Jerusalem is compact together. There's protection there. There's fellowship there. And all of those good things. I don't want to keep harping on the church over and over, but whatever the Lord puts here as is valuable for us. It's so popular especially in modern day Protestantism, people that have gone away from the organized Roman Catholic system, often we swing the pendulum really far away and we act as though, I've heard people act as though, especially people that are serious, and there's not a lot of serious Christians in some churches, they turn into lone wolves and they think we don't need each other, we don't need the church, we just need the Lord. But the Lord has given us churches, He's given us other believers to join ourselves together with, to have unity with, to be gathered with, to His name. And it's for our good, and it's for His glory, and it's so we would be a testimony to the world, so we can help one another and see each other's weaknesses and be protected from the devil. The last thing here we're going to look at, actually let's go to Ephesians chapter 4 briefly to speak about that idea of unity. Just quickly, it uses the exact same word in English in Ephesians chapter 4 verse 15 and 16. It says, "But speaking the truth in love, we may grow up into Him in all things, who is the head, even Christ, from whom the whole body, fitly joined together and compacted by that which every joint supplies, according to the effectual working in the measure of every part, makes increase of the body to the edifying of itself in love," or to the building up of itself in love. So the idea we get from there, it's kind of worded a little bit funny in the Bible I'm reading from, but quick paraphrase of it, the idea is we grow together through love and by everyone doing their part effectively. Unity is not a one-person thing. It says, by that which every joint supplies. And so, every part of the body must contribute when we're together, and we must grow at the same speed. Otherwise, we just have a funny-looking body. You know, if my nephew, the only thing that grows for the next 3 years are his legs, he would look really strange, really quick. And we're supposed to grow together as a body in our relationship, our walk with the Lord, as well as individually. The last thing we're going to look at, sorry this is going to get a little bit long, but in verse 4 of Psalm 122 that we just read, it says, "Where the tribes go up, the tribes of the Lord, to the testimony of Israel, to give thanks to the name of the Lord." So they're going up to remember what God has done, the testimony, to look at who God is and what He's done, and they're going to give thanks to the name of the Lord. This is another reason why we gather together, to give thanks to the Lord because He's worthy, because He deserves it. I'm not going to talk a lot about worship and praise here yet, because we'll definitely get into that as one of the important pillars in your walk with the Lord, but it'll be mentioned over and over in the Songs of Degrees. I want to look at this, to the name of the Lord. What does it mean to give thanks to the name of the Lord? You know, some groups would emphasize strongly that it's really important what the name of the Lord is and whether we say it right and whether we have it figured out what it really was and we pronounce it correctly, that's really important to God. And there's not necessarily no value in seeking that out and trying to figure that out and trying to honor the Lord in that way. But I think we can definitely go over the top in that. You see, a name is something that describes a person. It's something we use that tells us about a person. And in the Bible, there's a lot more behind this idea of a name than just the word. Like, my name is Joshua, it has a meaning. But also when someone speaks to me and they use my name is my reputation. It's my character. It's who I am, what I'm like. All those ideas are kind of tied with this idea of the name of God. The name of God is like who He is, His will, His mind, His reputation, His power, His ability. You know, we gather to who He is, not just to a word. You see, anyone can use the word God or the word Jehovah or Yahweh or the one who is self-existent. Anyone can use that word, but we gather to who that God is, to the Lord God. So just briefly to recap, when we gather together with a great desire to be with the people of God. We gather together, we have to be unified, and we need to be going to give thanks to the Lord, to His name, to who He is, because He is worthy. God bless you.